Mathematically, it would be irrational to think that something would not happen soon. The first artificial intelligence-driven, serious black swan event. Quite frankly, artificial intelligence scares the heck out of me. And we'll get into the really serious downside, the whole threat of entire human extinction from AI a little bit later. But first, we're going to talk about more realistic stuff. I'm going to give you my take on artificial intelligence, look at some of the opportunities, some of the companies involved in the space.
World's most advanced AI military robots developed by Boston Dynamics.
And of course, a lot of the risks that are going to be cropping up now. And if you think that AI is some kind of thing way in the future that we're working towards, artificial intelligence has been used by the YouTube algorithm, which decides what videos they're going to put in front of your eyes, suggest to you. They've been using that since I think it was about 2012. So I got to say, I'm not too impressed so far with the artificial intelligence-driven algorithmic platform. But there's plenty of top artificial intelligence companies that are publicly traded right now. If you want to get into some of these or look into them, none of these are a recommendation at all. Everything I say here is just my opinion, and you got to make your own choices and live with the results of those decisions. Some of the top AI companies are businesses like NVIDIA, Google, Alphabet, Microsoft, OpenAI, Apple, Baidu, SAP. There's plenty of others too. Those are some of the biggest ones that are publicly traded in America. And I always say with things like this, you should consider gravitating more towards the bigger companies because this is such a capital intensive business to be in. They're always going to be having to throw cash at all sorts of development and lawsuits and problems and technologies. They will never get to a point where they can say, there, we did it. So a little company is a lot more vulnerable. And no one knows that as well as we do at the Peter Leeds newsletter. And the bigger companies will have much deeper war chests, a bigger legal team, bigger technology team. They'll be the ones to come up with the really big inventions that really help the underlying companies. A lot of times, though, a small company will have something. They'll have a technology or a patent or the top executives that you want to acquire into your own company. And that's when somebody like Microsoft comes along and buys a littler company. And what happens is that then the share price, typically of the littler company, if they're publicly traded, will go up 40, 50%. There'll be a premium on the price to get all the shareholders to agree to the buyout offer, especially if it's a hostile takeover. But there will be consolidation, all the smaller companies getting absorbed by the bigger companies. And at the end of the day, you'll be left with fewer, although larger, companies. But I wouldn't be too worried about all the Terminator 2, Judgment Day kind of style threats unless Boston Scientific teams up with NVIDIA, in which case then we all run away from robots for the rest of our lives. I'm just kidding around, of course, but I got to tell you, I'm one of those guys that believes that computers and programming and technologies can do a much better job at most things than humans can. I said most, but not all. But I got to tell you, an autonomous vehicle, people are worried about autonomous cars. I guarantee an autonomous vehicle won't get in as many car accidents and fender benders as my Aunt Connie. They're just having to work out a few of the bugs. Some of the cars caught on fire. They're going to fix it. Give them a minute. It's a new, really powerful, really important technology that's going to be rolling out, and it's just a matter of getting used to it and fixing the kinks. It takes a while. Give them a minute to figure it out, and autonomous vehicles will be the way of the future. It's an idea that time has come. There's nothing stopping it. Of course, we're going to go to autonomous vehicles. Of course, we're going to go to autonomous trucks. The largest employer in the United States is trucking. And there's so much money to be saved by autonomous trucks. We'll get there eventually. If we don't do it in the next 10 years, we'll do it in the next 20 years. And overall, autonomous vehicles will have a better safety record than human-driven vehicles. But not just with the autonomous vehicles, all technologies. I believe that, and these aren't artificial intelligence, so to speak, necessarily, but we should be using lie detector tests in courts. And people say, well, you can fool a lie detector test. You can't fool a matrix lie detector test. If you have 6 people who witness a crime, you give them all lie detector tests. You can put together the entire scenario of what actually happened in that event, and you'll have a much better accuracy record than we currently have with a lot of people who aren't even guilty of the crimes that they're in jail for. Lie detector tests will help eliminate that problem. And there's also a lie detector test where they have retinal scan identification where you show pictures of a crime scene, and if the person has seen that situation before, or if they haven't, there's a completely different reaction in their retinas, iris, some part of the eye that they can track and see, and it's 100% accurate, and they got disappeared. I think the government, the military bought it. No one's talked about it again. It was a flawless lie detector system. These things are completely possible, and they'll completely save costs, increase efficiencies, increase the accuracy of who is in jail for crimes that they actually did commit. But not just that, also for law enforcement, there's all these robotic dogs, crowd control. You can go to a scene and take pictures, take a whole look around with drones. Even first responders, ambulance drivers, firefighters. There's so many technologies that we have right now that we could implement that will make things cost less, be more efficient and safer for people and more fair. I'd go so far as to say we should put governors on the speed controls of cars so that they can't go more than 25 miles an hour above the actual posted speed limit of that road. It can be done easily. And just before I get into the scary side of artificial intelligence, I'm so proud to say that we released the first Peter Leeds Army exclusive, a newsletter just for people of the Peter Leeds Army. If you're not in the Army yet, I really strongly encourage you to do that. That would be great. I know everybody who's in the Army and for how long and how much of a supporter they are. And it starts as low as $3 to get involved with this stuff. As I said earlier, artificial intelligence scares the heck out of me. And I don't just mean a Sarah Connor, Terminator 2 style apocalyptic Skynet situation. I'm talking about how it's going to affect even my career, the industry I'm in. There's a lot of moving parts that it's hard to keep an eye on all this stuff, and I have to keep an eye on it so that I know to make the right decisions ahead of time as they're all playing out. Even the way that my team works together, even the way that we do our analysis may be very different. The whole landscape of the competition that's out there and what they're offering is changing. But overall, beyond all that stuff, I think what really scares me the most about artificial intelligence is that I just don't understand it. It can't be understood by the human brain. You can think of a million items as the reason that you can think that in your mind is because it's actually in your mind. You're thinking about one thing, the pile of 1 million whatever. That's one thing. But you cannot think of a million different things at once. Most of us can't even keep two thoughts in our head at once. That's why we're standing with the refrigerator door open and you're looking in the fridge, just stand there trying to remember what it was that you went to the fridge for. We all do it. You can't think of dozens and dozens of things at once. So I fall back to thinking about what do we all know about artificial intelligence? We know that it's going to be a significant deflationary force. We know it's going to bring down a lot of costs. Entire industry groups are going to have to rethink their overall employee headcount. But beyond all of that, the one thing that we all for sure absolutely know about artificial intelligence is that no one can know what's going to happen with all of this. Yeah, there'll be new inventions, new production efficiencies, lower prices for some items, there'll be mass layoffs in some industry groups, and there'll even be lives saved and lives lost. The technological capabilities that artificial intelligence is going to allow for us as it gets more in the mainstream, more developed, as it goes logarithmic, can lead to some capabilities that we never assumed we'd be able to even see in our lifetimes. It could be incredibly good. But there's also going to be downsides too. We know there's going to be a lot of social confusion just like there is right now. A lot of excitement. And unfortunately, for a lot of people that get excited about new technology like this, there's a small portion of them, maybe 2% of them, who use it for negative ends, just as we saw after 9/11, after Russia invaded Ukraine. There's always scam artists that pop up and hang on to the back of whatever is the latest thing that's in the news. There's going to be a lot of scams popping up to do with artificial intelligence as long as it's in the news as it is today. So be super careful about that. If you get something in the mail and you read it, think to yourself, why are they putting this in front of your eyes? What do they want you to do? How are they benefiting from you seeing it? Do you need to take action? Are you going to buy some stock that they told you about that's an artificial intelligence company? Do they have hidden motivations? Ask yourselves those questions. But overall, my biggest point here is that unexpected things always happen, of course, and we're about to see the first Black Swan event that's been driven by artificial intelligence technologies. This will be caused by the combination of the absolutely bottomless complexity of all of this, And this new, incredibly powerful artificial intelligence technology, the concept of it, which just so happens to be being developed aggressively right now by North Korea, Iran, India, China, Russia, Israel, Japan, Canada, United Kingdom. And there's a lot more countries than that are actively, aggressively getting into this right now. Many of them are going to be weaponizing the technologies. Others are trying to develop technology for the good of mankind. Some are doing both. There's a video I put out recently, and one of you guys, if you've been here, you probably have seen it, and you can find the link to it. It showed you all the countries all over the world right now that are actively getting into their own artificial intelligence program. So when you try to think of the complexity of all of this, just countries like America, Canada, United Kingdom, the complexity of what's going to happen with artificial intelligence, you need to be concerned about. But then you add in a bunch of bad actors that want to make it as a weapon, such as Russia, North Korea, and all the complexity involving what they're working on. And you add this all together, all these countries, dozens and dozens of countries who are putting it together right now. What could go wrong? You can't even, in your mind, think about how complicated this all is, how complex it all is. Mathematically, it would be irrational to think that something would not happen soon. The first artificial intelligence-driven, serious black swan event. It could be as simple as one letter and one line of code getting changed in the right way. That's going to completely have a major negative effect. You're going to see the first black swan event from artificial intelligence going to be relatively soon based on the complexity of everything that's being aggressively rolled out right now. Speaking of which, this is from CNN. Dozens of industry leaders and academics in the field of artificial intelligence have called for greater global attention to the possible threat of extinction from AI. A statement signed by leading industry officials like OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Geoffrey Hinton, the so-called godfather of artificial intelligence, highlights wide-ranging concerns about the ultimate danger of unchecked AI. Look, we can check AI on our shores. We can make sure that we don't make a mistake or go too far, let something out of the bag that we shouldn't have. But is every other country all over the world also going to play by our rules? I think North Korea is going to do whatever they want to do. And it could be potentially bad if they get the usage of this powerful technology. When someone invented the compound bow, they could shoot arrows much further, and it changed the entire military landscape because of that one small invention. This is a similar thing, only it's a lot more serious, the kinds of things that artificial intelligence could do and how many people it could affect because of the digital interconnection nature of all programs now. Experts say humanity is still a ways off from the prospect of science fiction-like AI overlords. But the flood of hype and investment into the AI industry has led to calls for regulation now before any major mishaps occur. Regulate it all you want. The people doing the decisions about how to regulate things, what to regulate, they're not understanding the overall complexity of this because no human mind would be able to do that. The growing AI arms race has already generated more immediate concerns. Lawmakers, advocacy groups, and tech insiders have raised alarms about the potential for AI-powered language models like ChatGPT to spread misinformation and displace jobs. We already spread misinformation without the need for AI or robots or programs. We do it just us humans already. So they're worried that the artificial intelligence is going to start spreading misinformation. I'd be more worried about the really serious stuff that it could do. One place I think that artificial intelligence shows its weakness is you see these paintings and pictures that basically artificial intelligence made, and it looks just as good as what a human would do. So is that going to put artists out of work? Maybe some of them. But I think that art itself is about the artist who created it. The art's not about the artwork, the art's about the artist at that point in time and why they created that particular piece or sculpture. And Jane recently took me to the Detroit Institute of Art, and we saw the Diego Rivera mural. That thing is just walls of paintings that he did all around you, and you're sitting in the middle of it. Anytime I see a painting that artificial intelligence did, it just feels cold and dead to me because there's no artist behind it. So let's circle back in a few years and we'll see if we are living a much better life or if we're all hiding beneath rubble in a post-apocalyptic world. And we're working on the big inflationary bounce video now, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. It's coming up soon.